Hi everyone, I'm Karen McCarthy and it's time to Karen-ize. Today is Wednesday and that's when we talk about spiritual health, and I want to start it off by just hoping that you had a wonderful Christmas. I know that the holidays can be the best of times and the worst of times. So hoping that you had either the best of times or something in between. And if you had a rough holiday, I would really encourage you to just press into God for some comfort. So today, anyway, let's get on to today's subject. I want to talk about prayer. I think we've touched on this before, but I just really am feeling like that's something that we are supposed to talk about right now. Um, there are a lot of people out there, a lot of programs out there that talk about that whatever you want, God's going to give it to you. And I want to talk on that a little bit because that's not necessarily true. I mean, think about it. As a parent, do we always give our children everything they want? I mean, we can see the bigger picture that they can't see, and we can say, oh, that's not going to be a very good thing in the long run. I always think of the Christmas Story movie when the mom was like, oh, you're going to put your eye out with that. I think it was the mom that said that. Anyway, the mom was not happy about the gun, but anyway, and she knew the potential hazards that could come along with that. So, God knows the same thing. Sometimes we want things. Sorry, I just saw my hair just did weird things. Squirrel. Um, God knows that some of the things that we want are not going to be the best for us in the long run, or that the time isn't right. So there's three answers to prayer. Yes, maybe, later, and not a good thing. I think about a friend of mine who was a newlywed, and she wanted a baby so bad. I mean, she would have these false pregnancy symptoms because she wanted it so bad that she was constantly, her body was like, okay, 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 but it couldn't quite do it. Excuse me. I got something in my throat and something in my eye. There we go. And she just kept praying and praying, and she was so frustrated and discouraged because it just never happened. Well, she told me this story after the fact. That marriage turned out to be a very abusive marriage. It was not a good place to raise a child. It was not a good place for her to be in. And so she looked back and she's like, I am so glad that God answered that prayer the way he did. No, not right now and not with this person, because she would have been tied to that abusive relationship in some form or another for the rest of her life. And her child would have been, it would have been one of those situations, the tug of war, where one side was always talking down on the other side, and it would have not been a good situation for the child either. So God knew that. She didn't know that. I mean, she was a newlywed. Everything was still rosy. She hadn't seen what we want to maybe call the true colors of her new spouse, but God knew. And she can look back now and say, oh my gosh, thank you so much, God. I figure the reason he's not letting us win the lottery, because my husband does buy tickets, I don't, but he does, is, I don't know, maybe we would have some really bad things happen if we did get that much money. Maybe we would be you hear about the lottery winners that, they basically destroy their lives because of that money, and the money's gone in, like 2 years or something. So something like that seems like a really cool thing. He knows the big picture, and he knows things that we don't know. I know I talked about this before because I remember talking about a book that I read, and I wish I could remember the name of it. It was a fantastic book, and it was like behind the scenes spiritually, what was going on in this person's life. For instance, he was really mad one day because he was late for work because of something that happened on the way. I don't remember. There was road construction or something made it so he had to take a different route. And the angels that were talking about the situation behind the scenes were like, he has no idea that if he had, I think he missed his turn. That's what it was. He missed his turn because something was going on. He was not paying attention. If he had taken his normal turn, he would have been in a head-on collision and died. And so, we don't always know those things. Just trust that if God is saying no, there's a good reason. And if he's saying, not the right time, he knows. He knows when the right time is. We don't always know those things. I had a situation when we were starting the youth center where, God told me specifically, it's like, boom, This is the time. You need to get started. And I'm like, wait a minute, because it was the busiest year I'd ever had teaching. And I was like, how am I going to do this? But as I started getting things ready for the youth center and contacting people, invariably they said, guess what? This is the perfect time. So it wasn't perfect for me, but it was perfect in the time of God's plan. And it turned out fantastic. I mean, we were able to completely furnish our youth center for free. And it was amazing because of the timing. Had I waited until it was convenient for me and I was retired a couple years later, we would not have had that option. So always know there's a reason. He loves us so much. He wants the best for us. And does he allow some of the bad stuff to happen or consequences of our actions when we just say, yeah, I just have to have it, God? And he's like, okay, but I'm warning you, there was a reason I was saying no. So just know he does allow things in our lives sometimes. And sometimes that's to help us to lean on him more or understand our relationship with him more, something like that. Anyway, I'm kind of getting off the subject. So wanted to talk about the 3 answers to prayer. What are they? Yes, no, and maybe not right now. So remember those things when you're feeling discouraged, and know that just like a father who loves his child and wants to prevent as much of the heartache and sadness and mistakes and things as they can, God wants to keep us from some of those things too. He wants to protect us from some of those things. Sometimes they're allowed in our lives, but when they are, there's also another reason, and I can look back on those times and see the good that came out of it because I leaned on him during those times. So hope that's not a downer today. It's supposed to be really positive because he does listen to us, he does love us, and he does answer our prayer. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you Friday for some crafting.